them into the chat. I think everything's rock and roll. Just waiting for that to connect across. If anybody has any comments about my cup, please do feel free to comment about my cup. Okay, we're live on YouTube, which is awesome. Let's see if that's working. Got any people on YouTube? I'll start to get their notifications now. Okay, great. There's people on YouTube. By the way, if you're on YouTube and you're watching this, click that subscribe button down there. So when we do a live stream, you will be notified. So you can start watching this, okay? Anyway, let's just get started because we had a bit of a slow start there. I think that's all fine. Any comments about my cup? Nice cup, thank you, I agree, nice cup, I agree. My tutorial, okay, good, yep. All right, good, let's just get started and let's do this thing. Okie dokie, let me just check this and let me click record, that's recording. Hello, OET people. My name is Jay. I'm one of the expert OET teachers here at e2language.com, which, by the way, is a premium preparation provider. We are one of the best OET institutes in the world. We're 100% computer-based. All you need to do is open your laptop. You can sit at home. You can learn and prepare for the OET from the comfort of your own home, which is awesome. Right, in this live class, we're going to focus on OET writing. We're going to look at a step in the method where you need to transform case notes, which is actually kind of complicated. Before that though, let's go through the method. You should be aware by now that there are 4 steps to the E2 language OET writing method. The first one is to interpret the case notes. Then you select relevant case notes. Then you organize case notes logically before transforming them accurately. What does interpret mean? Well, interpret means this. This is what the case notes look like on test day. You can see that there are certain little, what would you call this? Acronyms, I guess. There are numbers. There are certainly no complete sentences. There are sentences that are kind of hard to interpret, like this. There are little squiggles and symbols. There's a number of confusing way in which these case notes are presented in front of you. So your first step during the reading time is to interpret the case notes correctly. Because if you misinterpret it and you write it into your letter in a way that is incorrect, well, that's going to affect your score. So there is only one way to interpret these case notes correctly. So that's the first step of the method on test day, interpretation. Then you will think about selection, and you'll be selecting according to the task, according to who you're writing to. So when you're selecting, you're thinking about who you're writing to. You're selecting according to the task. Basically, there's 2 rules here. You choose relevant case notes and you ignore irrelevant case notes. It all depends on the task and who you're writing to and why though. Right? That sets the agenda for selection. You need to ask yourself a couple of questions when you're thinking about case note selection. One is, if I were the recipient of the letter, what would I want to know? So let's say you're a nurse and you're writing a referral letter, or a doctor writing a referral letter. Let's say you're writing to a physiotherapist, right? So if you're the doctor and you're writing to the physiotherapist, you need to ask yourself, if I were the physiotherapist, what would I want to know from these case notes? Which case notes would I want to be told about? Which part of the medical history, which part of the diagnosis, what would the physio want to know? Which ones are relevant, which ones are irrelevant? Okay, so that's the first question you need to ask yourself. The second question you need to ask yourself is, if I were the recipient, if I were the physiotherapist, how would I want the information to be organized in terms of priority? Which information would you put at the top of the letter, or which case notes are more important than the other case notes? Okay, one of the things that you're graded on in this letter is how well you prioritize important information. Let's say you're writing to a physiotherapist about somebody who recently broke their arm and they also have a dislocated finger, right? But the finger's actually fine now. It just needs a little bit of stretching. Which is more important? Which would you prioritize, the finger or the arm? Okay, so you need to think about that. Okay, you should also ask yourself these questions when you're thinking about selecting case notes. Does the recipient know the patient already? What is extremely relevant? What is semi-relevant, possibly relevant? You should always err on the side of caution and include semi-relevant case notes. Better to include semi-relevant than to not include semi-relevant, okay? But there will also be case notes that are completely irrelevant, which you definitely should ignore. And you'll see those, they're kind of like distractors, okay? They're put in there to distract you. It'll say something like, you're writing to the physiotherapist and the person's an accountant. Does that matter? Possibly, I guess, if he's sitting down all day, but you need to think about these things in relevance. Okay, this leads us to the third step of the E2 language OET writing method, which is to organize the case notes logically. There are two main structures, and we looked at this in the last live class. You can organize your writing by order of importance, or you can organize your writing by time or visit. In other words, chronologically. Let's have a look at by order of importance first to refresh your memory. So you may structure your writing or organize your writing like this, if it's order of importance. The reason for writing, the main medical issue. Second paragraph, the main medical issue in detail. Third paragraph, secondary or related issue. Fourth paragraph, the discharge or management plan. Something like this. So in doing this, what we have done is we've prioritized the main medical issue at the top. And as we head down the letter, we're getting through less important information until we hit the management plan, which is again important, and it's located right at the end. So if you think about it like this, right at the beginning, you put the important information, and right at the end, you put the important information. Looks like a funny face, looks like a fish. All right, the second main structure is organizing your letter by time or visit or chronologically, by a chronology. So in which case the structure might look like this. You have the reason for writing, the main medical issue, what happened on the first visit, what happened on the second visit, what happened on the most recent visit, and what's the discharge management plan. Okay, so you can also structure your writing like this. What you'll find, especially for doctors and physios, I'm not sure about the other professions, less so for nursing. For those of you who work in professions where somebody will come and see you several times in a row, like a physio, for example, or a doctor, okay? But then you're going to refer them to a specialist. So you'll be saying, hey, specialist, this person came to me with this issue. This is the main medical issue. When they first came, this is what the problem was. Then they came again a week later and the problem had become worse. Finally, they visited me yesterday and the problem's gone completely out of control. So I'm referring this patient to you for whatever. Okay, so that's a chronological structure, which might be important. This leads us to number 4, which we are talking about in depth today, which is transformation, the final step of the E2 language writing method, okay? Transforming case notes. So it's kind of similar to interpreting case notes, because when you're interpreting a case note, for example, you're looking at, let's look at this one here. So the first step was to interpret. And that means to read this and to think to yourself, what does this mean? 13 months. Okay, remember this is past surgical history. Always pay attention to that subheading. Past surgical history, 13 months, eye surgery to align eyes. Now, the interpretation, there's 2 ways to interpret this. One is 13 months ago, Jane, this patient Jane, had eye surgery to align her eyes, which, by the way, is wrong. That's not right, because we're looking at past surgical history. 13 months. Here in the medical history, there's talking about she was born premature. So we're probably thinking, or the correct interpretation based on the context would be when Jane was 13 months old, she had eye surgery to align her eyes. So that's the interpretation. The transformation when you start to write this is the same thing, except what you're doing is taking that mental interpretation and writing it out on the paper. Okay, so it's transforming. So you're transforming that onto the paper, but it's the same process. Basically, you're just expressing it in written form. Cool. This is an important step, and there's a couple of two key things that I want to teach you about this step. Okay. Okay, first of all, these are the key skills you need to know about transformation. One, how to turn a case note into a grammatical sentence. Number one is how to turn a single case note into a grammatical sentence. The second key skill is to combine related case notes into a single sentence. So let's look at this one first, turning a single case note into a grammatical sentence. Let me just check that everything's working and functioning on YouTube. Everyone's happy. Okay, is everybody happy? Yes. All right, good. I think everyone's happy. Let me just check the Zoom webinar. Yes, everyone's happy. And got 150 people watching this, which is cool. Oops, wrong one. Here we go. Let's do this. Let's turn a single case note into a grammatical sentence. Let's take this one here. 2 weeks old, stroke, caused cerebral palsy. Let's turn this case note here. I want you to transform this case note into a single grammatical sentence. You have 45 seconds. Make this grammatical. Ready? Type it into the chat. Go. Okay, how did you go? Hopefully that was enough time. That's the kind of, you need to move obviously quite rapidly in the OET exam, but that's kind of what you're doing. You're taking those case notes, you're organizing them is probably the most difficult thing, I think, thinking about a nice structure for your letter. But once you've thought about the structure in your paragraphs, then you're going, okay, I'm going to, paragraph 1, for example, is going to be about past medical history. For example, it might not be, there's no set structure, changes according to the letter, but then you're going to combine case notes into this paragraph. And so that transformation step is critical. Let me show you mine. So I've written 3 of them here. First one, I wrote, at 2 weeks of age, Jane suffered a stroke which caused her cerebral palsy. Okay, makes sense. Second one I wrote, at the age of 2 weeks, Jane had a stroke which resulted in cerebral palsy. Third one, Jane had a stroke when she was 2 weeks old, which caused her cerebral palsy. So I've just moved that adverbial there, 2 weeks old, to the middle of the sentence. They all say the same thing, basically. That's how you transform a single case note into a sentence. Let's do one more, and then we're going to do the combining case notes activity. So let's transform this one here. Can use computer phone dictation software. I'm going to give you a few good examples, but first of all, you have 45 seconds to transform this into a grammatical sentence. Cool. All right. How did you go? Before we move on and look at some possible suggested answers, all of you on YouTube, I want you to click that subscribe button down there, okay? That means every time we do a live stream, you'll be notified on your phone. You can just sit there and watch it, okay? And plus, we want to increase our number of subscribers and hopefully one day get to 100,000. So click the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, click the little bell so you'll be notified about our live streams. Cool. And feel free to like this video if you feel that it's helping you. Okay, let's see my suggested answers here. Can use computer phone dictation software. Obviously, we're talking about Jane. So Jane has the ability to use a computer, phone, as well as dictation software. Pretty straightforward. Or Jane is capable of using a variety of technology, including her computer, phone, and dictation software. What I've done with this one here is I've combined these into a single term, communicative technology. Instead of mentioning each one individually, I've just said, please note that Jane is able to use a variety of communicative technology. Or Jane is able to use a variety of technology to communicate, okay? So you don't have to mention individual words like this. You can find a synonym or a categorizing word like this to change it as well. And that's a very skillful thing to do. So it's a good idea, as long as it says the same thing. Okay, let's look at the second key skill here in transforming case notes. That is being able to combine related case notes, so several case notes, into a single sentence. And you need to be able to do this. What you don't want to do is just have one sentence per case note in the paragraph. So your paragraph has like 7 or 10 sentences. What you need to be able to do is to go, okay, that case note, and that case note related. Okay. And it's an essential skill. Oh, my internet connection is unstable for some reason. Just let me check that everything's working. Yes, everything seems to be okay. Cool. All right, let's continue on. So let's combine these. Let's combine these two case notes here. Lives alone, has rehab aid, handles shopping errands. Let's combine these two case notes into a grammatically correct single sentence. You have 45 seconds. How did you go? Hopefully you had enough time here. Now when you combine multiple case notes together into a single sentence, it gives you an opportunity to write a different type of sentence, a more complex sentence, okay? Writing simple sentences is fine because they're nice and clear, but in order to maximize your grammar score, you also have to put in a variety of sentence structures. It's not like the IELTS where wow, the IELTS is very strict on variety of sentence structures. The OET is more forgiving, but still you should have some compound, some complex, and probably lots of simple sentences, okay? But you still need some complex ones. So let's have a look here. The first one I have, well, these are both complex sentences. Let's read the first one. Jane lives alone, but has a rehabilitation aide who handles her shopping and errands. Okay, so I've really done a literal, I've just taken that, that handles that, and that, right? So I've really just taken that whole thing and put it into a sentence. This one is, I've written it in my own words, and that's probably a little bit better to do as long as it says the same thing. Although Jane lives by herself, she does have an aide who provides home support. So what have I done here? First of all, I've written a complex sentence using although ... I've changed lives alone to lives by herself. I've kept just the word aid there. And what I've done here is handles shopping and errands. I've just called that home support, okay? So I've used a bit of a synonym here, and that's a good one. They're both fine. This one's probably better. Okay, oops. Let's do this one here. Non-ambulatory power wheelchair for mobility. Let's combine these two case notes into a single grammatical sentence. Okay. So I guess you can see the association between these two case notes. Now, these two case notes might not be together in the booklet. They may be separated. One comes from, I don't know, I won't say which category. One comes from up here and the other one comes from down there, right? But you can see that they're associated. There's a relationship. And so you pull that one, you pull this one, put it together and put it into one sentence, okay? That's a good thing to do. It saves on word count and it's a more sophisticated way to write. So it might say something like this: Jane cannot walk, but she uses a power wheelchair to move, okay? Compound sentence. Or Jane cannot ambulate, however, she uses a power wheelchair for transport. Okay, I could have said Jane is non-ambulatory, but I guess that would be fine. But probably, again, who am I speaking to? Who am I writing to? I think using clearer language might be better in this case, but that's fine. Good, and I've changed here mobility to transport or mobility to move here. You can see the synonyms that I've used here to show off my writing skills. Cool. Let's finish up by talking about some ways to link bits and pieces in your linking bits and pieces in your writing. This is sort of more a question of organization, but what happens is this: you look at the case notes and you say, okay, I'm going to write a paragraph about this. I'm going to write a paragraph about this and a paragraph about this, right? But I've got this other case note that doesn't really fit into any of these paragraphs. It's just a sort of, it's just an odd case note that's not related to this theme, or this theme. So what do you do with case notes like that? Because it's relevant and it's important and you need to include it, but it doesn't really fit anywhere. So I want to show you what to do with that. So what you can do is just have a single sentence paragraph where you say, for your information, Jane ... whatever it is. Maybe Jane doesn't speak English. So it's very important that you say that. For your information, Jane does not speak English. Or please note that Jane doesn't speak English. Or it's worth noting that Jane doesn't speak English. Importantly, Jane doesn't speak English. Something like that. So you can use these words or phrases. You can tack it onto the end of a paragraph if you like, if it works, if it's the right paragraph to tack it onto. But what you want to do is preface it with one of these linking words. You don't want to just let it blend into the paragraph. You want to use something like, please note that, to make it stand out. Okay, so these are important linking words and phrases in your letter. The last thing I want to talk to you about is how to use the name, because you're going to be mentioning the name numerous times throughout the letter. What's the best way to do that? Do you say Jane, 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 Jane? Or do you say she? Or yeah, so let's have a look at this. Basically, this is how you do it. Pretty straightforward. So in your introductory sentence, I'm writing to refer Jane or discharge Jane, whatever, Jane Doe. You use her full name, okay? Now, she's female. You can gather that by the name, or it will say her sex on the case notes in some regard. So you'll be able to interpret that she is male or female. Paragraph 1, you'll start with just her name. Jane came to our clinic, ... She, her. Paragraph 2, use her first name again. Jane visited our clinic again 2 weeks later. She, her. Finally, yesterday, Jane presented again. She, her, whatever. Okay, so you use the first name at the beginning of the paragraph, and then after that, you move to the pronoun. Okay, so name to pronoun. Cool, I hope that's clear. Guys, before you nick off and do your thing, if you're worried about your OET, if you need some help, go to e2language.com, sign up for free to our online course. All of the methodology lessons, all of the overview lessons, all of the practice material, writing samples, writing case notes, speaking, listening, reading part A, reading part B, it's all in there. We also offer one-on-one tutorials with expert OET teachers for speaking and writing and reading. You can get feedback on your writing. Lots and lots of stuff here at e2language.com. We are, as I said at the beginning, a premium preparation provider, so you can trust us. Cool. Now I'll go and do some questions. If you have any questions, pop them into the chat. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube Live or YouTube, click the subscribe button, leave a comment and click like. It'd be much appreciated. Turn that recording off. Thank you, Jay, for this learning opportunity. In the writing subtest, have you encountered case notes without discharge plan? Yeah. It might just have a management plan. It will have something, it'll have a reason for writing. That reason for writing will be in the task. You know, you might be writing to refer Jane Doe for a diagnosis to a specialist. But also in the management plan or the discharge plan, it will give you particulars that you need to include. Maybe Jane, oh, I have to go at 3:30. That's okay, I've got some time. Yeah, so yes, but just again, be flexible. Oh, that's interesting, Cynthia. I'll have a look at that one. Okay, any questions? Okay, are there any tips for reading part B? Here's my tip for reading part B. Read the question prompt. Read the question prompt. Don't read the answer options. Read the question prompt, then read the text. Okay? See if you can find the answer yourself, then read the answer options and see if you're understanding which one it matches to from those answer options. When you read the question prompt and then read the answer options, it confuses you, okay? So for example, let's say the question says, what is the main idea of the paragraph? Okay, forget the answer options. You don't want to confuse yourself. What is the main idea of the paragraph? Read the paragraph. Think to yourself while you're reading it, what's the main idea here? Then go to the answer options and go, okay, I think the main idea is this. No. Yes, this matches to my understanding. That's the best way to do that one. Is E2 Language providing OET old questions? I'm not sure what you mean there. The OET test is changing from September. So if you are taking the OET in September, the reading and the listening sections of the test are changing significantly. We will be updating our content by the 21st of June for those people who are taking the test in September. For those of you taking the test in June, July, August, don't worry, you're taking the old test. All of the content on E2 Language is still relevant and applicable and high quality. For those of you taking the test in September, we'll have something ready for you soon. Jay, when you write a letter in the chronological order, should we write the treatment along with every visit being written? It depends. Yeah, basically you're outlining what happened in that visit. You know, when Jane visited me on the second time, which was 2 weeks ago, she complained that her symptoms had increased or gotten worse. I treated her with this, but then she presented 2 days later, whatever. So there's no set formula. You need to just work it out as you're doing it. Jay, where can we find writing samples? Thank you. For the nurses, it's in the website. After you submit your writing, you should see the writing sample. For doctors, you'll go to help.e2language.com. The help desk will provide you with the samples. Yes. Kat, Jay, can we use with in paragraph Jane, then she, then the patient? The patient. Yeah, you can, instead of she, you can say the patient, but probably better to say she. Hamza, can I highlight with a highlighter in question papers? No, you can't bring a highlighter to the OET. You can use your pen to highlight. Anas, I won't go read that one, Anas. Okay, YouTube Live, here we go. Let's read some of these questions. Aziz, do I need to write all drugs with full dose and duration that the patient is taking at the time? My answer to that is, it depends. Depends who you're writing to. If you're writing to a physio, or maybe the drugs are irrelevant. If you're writing to a pulmonologist, then maybe that would be extremely relevant. Again, the answer to questions like, should I do this or should I do that? The answer is, it depends. Depends on who you're writing to and why you're writing to them, okay? There's no set formula. So you need to get that out of your mind. It's hard to get out of your mind because everyone wants a set formula so you can but that's not how it works in the OET. If you want to get a good score, an A or a B, you need to be flexible. You need to read the task, understand the task, and write according to the task. That's what you do, okay? If anybody tells you differently, then I'm sorry, but they're wrong. So if anybody gives you a set formula or a set structure, say, sorry, that's not how you do it. Should I put a comma after yours sincerely? It's probably the least of your worries. You can, doesn't matter. Do you think remarking of writing would be a good idea? It's so hard to say. I don't know what your writing is like. In some instances, yes. In some instances, no. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that. Here's a good question. Are all discharge plans related to the recipient? I would cautiously say yes. Kirti Jani, what's the meaning of 32/12.5 25 milligrams? I don't know. That's for the professionals to know. Could you please explain how the writing subtest in the OET is scored? Yes. It's scored according to 5 criteria. Okay. The first one it's scored on is called task fulfillment. That means, did you write according to the task? Did you write the letter to the physio with the physio's needs in mind? Okay. Second one is appropriateness. Did you use appropriately semi-formal language? Third one is, I'm going to struggle to remember these, comprehension of the case notes. Did you interpret the case notes correctly and did you put the correct information into the letter? Fourth one is grammar. Is your grammar accurate? The fifth one, and I can't believe I did it, good. Fifth one is layout. Is your letter presented in a typical structure with correct punctuation? And so I guess that comma is important. So they're the 5 things. Task fulfillment. Did you write according to the needs of the reader? Appropriateness. Is your language appropriately semi-formal? Case note comprehension. Did you interpret and include relevant information? Is it grammatically accurate, and is it presented properly? They're the 5 things you're graded on. That's what the OET examiners look for. Is it allowed, should we use abbreviations in the letter? So if you're a doctor writing to a doctor, then yes, just use common abbreviations. But if you're a nurse writing to a school principal, no, because the school principal won't know. Again, think about who you're writing to. Here, I mean, this is the typical question, which again, could you tell us the latest format for letter writing? No, because there isn't one, okay? I mean, broadly speaking, you're going to have an introductory paragraph. You're going to have a second paragraph, a third paragraph, and probably a discharge management plan. That's all I can tell you. It's up to you on test day to write according to the needs of the reader. That's the best way to pass the OET. If you go in there thinking, my first paragraph will be the past medical history, my second paragraph will be the admission diagnosis, this paragraph will, if you do that, you'll probably get a C, because task fulfillment will not be appropriate, okay? Here's a good question. Which method or structure would you recommend? Writing by the importance of issues or by the chronological structure? Depends on the task, depends on the case notes. Jay, if I'm writing to you a community nurse, what should be the last line of the introduction? From your service or at your service? I don't know. Neither of those probably. What would you say to the community nurse if you were speaking to the community nurse? That's probably a better way to think about it. Okay, Dr. Gagan Shrestha. In listening part A, where you need to take notes, should we put a slash between answers in listening part A to put in more answers as we listen? I don't know. It's a very interesting question. I don't know the answer to it. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say there. Lola, when we describe more than one event in the past, should we always use the past perfect, or if you're confused about verbs, which verbs to use, and verbs are extremely important in this letter because you're talking about things that have happened in the past which are completed and finished, like he took his medication, finished, or has been taking medication, or had taken medication when something happened. Verbs are extremely important in this letter. If you're confused about those, check out our videos on YouTube up here or in the platform. You can find them all in the platform in e2language.com. Guys, I'm going to leave it there because I have a meeting to go to. I hope that was helpful. If you have any more questions, I can see there's 150 people in this webinar. So if I haven't answered your question, I apologize. If you have any questions about the OET, or if you're curious about our packages, go to help.e2language.com. Go to this website here, and you can raise a ticket. You raise a ticket, and you can ask your question, okay? And we'll get back to you with an answer. Cool. Anyway, hope it was helpful. Good luck if you're taking the OET at the end of next week. And otherwise, stay tuned for more. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the website, and I'll see you soon.